Well, welcome everyone to this special event that's being held in recognition of the United Nations International Day of Living in Peace, which is technically tomorrow. This year's theme is Building Trust Through Dialogue, Inclusion, and Reconciliation. It's a day that's meant to promote peace, tolerance, inclusion, and solidarity, encouraging dialogue to foster a harmonious global community that respects diversity. And it serves as a reminder that lasting peace requires continuous effort and engagement. I am thrilled to have you all here. I'm Opal Lehman Barges, Assistant Dean for Global Learning and Innovation and Executive Director of Education Abroad at Michigan State University, and the current leader of NAFSA's Peace, Justice, and Citizen Diplomacy Interest Group. Today's gathering is co-sponsored by the Interest Group and the Michigan State Center for Global Learning and Innovation. Our 1-hour practical workshop is titled Creative Writing for Peace and Social Change, and we're so grateful to have our facilitator, Andy Pring, with us to lead this exciting learning opportunity. Andy is a dialogue facilitator and creative writing specialist with over 20 years of experience fostering interfaith and intercultural understanding, and I would like to turn this over now to Andy.
That's great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Opal, for that warm welcome. It's wonderful to be here with you all. I'm just going to jump straight in. This is a workshop that I usually run as a 2-hour workshop, and we're going to run it as a 1 hour today. So that's why I'm just going to jump straight in. But I will explain every step as we go through. But to begin with, I'm just going to share my screen to introduce you to the project that I run, which is called Creative Writing for Social Change. It's a 3-hour session course, all online. And each session looks at a different part of creative writing. So we cover character development, dialogue, scene setting, imagery, and plot. Our groups are small, 6 participants in each, and we do that so that it's a safe space where everyone has an opportunity to share and enough time where they don't feel rushed about sharing their lived experience and their stories. We have participants from all over the world, including from people in Gaza and women in Afghanistan, and which is it's just wonderful to be, as it's so inclusive that we can really reach people in those otherwise which really difficult to reach places. The part of the way that it is made accessible globally is the cost. And so, what is the cost? Sessions are charged at an hourly rate equivalent to the national minimum wage in the participant's country of residence. So, for example, in the UK, the national minimum wage is £12.21 per hour. Therefore, the total cost for participants living in the UK is £219.78. Whereas in Sri Lanka, the national minimum wage is 19 pence per hour. Therefore, the total cost for participants living in Sri Lanka is £3.42. So, and there are circumstances for where people who can't even afford their minimum wage in their country of residence, where we are able to subsidise their participation, so that finance is never a barrier for participation. We also are going to be running a retreat in Morocco later this year, the 31st of August to the 6th of September. This can be our first retreat. But I've seen Catherine in the room. Hello, Catherine, who I'm running a mini retreat with in the weekend in a few weeks in Indiana. So anyway, so there's more information on that on our website and lots of the other things that we do, which I'll share with you in the chat in a moment. But first of all, to get going properly with the session today, the objective for today is to help you write about your lived experience in a way that allows the reader to step into your shoes and see the world through your eyes. So, to begin to do this, I'm going to ask you all, just quietly where you are, to think about what social issue you want to focus on today in the session. So just take a moment to think about what is the biggest social issue for you that you're most passionate about. And obviously there is a lot of intersectionality with different social issues, but for the purposes of this exercise, just try and think of the one that stands out as the most important to you. And then when you've done that, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, but cast your mind back. When did you first become passionate about this issue? Or when were you first impacted by it? So first of all, think of the issue that you want to focus on. And then think of a memory, one that's as vivid as possible to you, where this issue impacted you yourself directly. It could be something that happened in your early life, it could be something that happened quite a long time ago, or it could be something that happened recently. I'm going to give you 1 minute to think about this. And, so just a few more seconds on that. I'm just going to welcome those who have arrived since I began. So welcome to the session. What I've asked everybody to do is to, as you can see on the screen here, to think about what social issue you want to focus on today and to cast your mind back. When did you first become passionate about this issue? Or when were you first impacted by it? Okay, and then in a moment, I'm going to move on to the next step. Okay, I'm going to leave that on my screen. But what I'm going to ask you to do now is, and it would be helpful if you have something to write with, either on a device or physical pen and paper. And I want you to picture this moment that you're recalling as vividly as you can in your mind. So if it's helpful to close your eyes, you can do that. And I'm going to ask you to think about the five senses one at a time. And so we're going to begin with sight. And I want you just to list down words or phrases, not sentences, just words or phrases about what you see around you in your memory. Can I give you 1.5 minutes to do this? So there'll be big things that are really obvious that stand out, and then there might be smaller things that aren't so obvious. Just list down all the things that you can see in your mind's eye from this moment in your memory. I'll give you 1.5 minutes to do that.
Kwa hiyo ya kipindi chetu tutaipata katika muda mrefu, lakini kwanza tuelekee Marsabit ambapo waziri wa usalama Kipchumba Murkomen ameamuru kupitishwa kwa
Mambo ni meeting.
ya maafisa wa usalama eneo la
Okay, and now we're going to move on to sound, the sense of sound. What do you hear? And again, maybe just try and blank out any sight now. and and just focus on the sounds that you hear. Again, there might be sounds that are very obvious, very loud, very clear. So write down words or phrases about those sounds, not sentences. And there might be more subtle sounds. Jot any that you can think of down. And I'll give you another minute and a half for this as well. Okay, and now we're going to move on to touch. And there's two steps to touch. The first kind of touch I want you to think about is things that are external to your body that you can feel. So that could be anything from the weather, the temperature. It could be your clothing if it's something that you can feel. It could be if you're sweating. Um, it could be something that you're holding or something that's pushing against you or what you feel under your feet. I can give you a minute and a half for that. So touch. What do you feel? What can you feel or sense through touch? Okay, now we're going to come on to internal touch. So that is any sensations that you might be able to feel inside your body. And these are often connected to your emotional state. So if you're nervous or anxious, you might feel something in your stomach. If you're stressed, you might feel something in your shoulders or your neck or elsewhere. Try and think what emotions you are feeling and where you might feel that in your body or anything else that you might be feeling internally. Okay, and then the last two, taste and smell, we won't spend so long on because it's normally not so many, but so we'll do smell first of all. Just take a moment to think if there are but for some of you there may be taste, so if there is, pop it down. Okay. So now, in a moment, I'm going to ask some of you who feel comfortable sharing just your list to read that out to the group. But I don't want you to give any context for your list. I don't want you to explain anything about the memory. I only want you to share the words or phrases that you've written down. And the reason for this is here on the next slide, because a really important part of creative writing is something called show, don't tell. And this means that instead of telling the reader what to think or feel, use actions, dialogues, and sensory details to allow the reader to experience and interpret the story themselves. And this will become clear as we listen to phrases. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I just want to invite a few people who feel comfortable sharing their words. You're not. I'm not going to ask you to give any explanation after you've shared about this. It's purely. We're all purely going to listen to your words and phrases. So, and again, just a reminder, please don't give any context or explanation to this. If you feel comfortable to share, could you put your hand up, please? Sorry, with the emoji, because I can't see everybody on the screen, sorry. Great, thank you. Um, Evelyn, please just read through your list to us, please.
Um, Sight is a Sears wish book. My brother, the living room, a large wooden phonograph stereo from the 1960s, pages of dolls and girls' toys, pages of boys' toys. The memory, the memory is mostly silent. If I recall correctly, my mom was in the kitchen. Touch is the carpet below me. The clothing that always bothered me, tags and seams, would annoy my skin. The pages of the catalog, the cool breeze when the door was opened. Internal touch is fear-based anxiety, a distinct electrical sensation of nerves in my arms, mixed with the warmth of joy and anticipation. And the smell is food cooking in the kitchen and the ink of the new paper, or the ink on the new paper.
Great. Thank you very much, Evelyn. That was great. Thank you for sharing that. It'd be good to have a few more people share, but as you do, oh yes, I should say sorry. I'm not. Please do feel free to add any comments into the chat box. I'm not going to be personally checking the chat myself, but please do feel free to communicate with one another through that. So I hope as you listen to Evelyn there, you had a sense of curiosity as well as a vividness in the description, um, which allows us to kind of, as I said at the beginning, we want to allow the reader or the listener to step into our shoes and experience that moment with us. So let's just have a couple more people who feel comfortable sharing. If a couple more people could put their emoji hand up to share, that would be really great. Thank you. Amanda, again, same thing, no introduction, just literally list out your words and phrases, please.
Okay, I'll show myself while I'm doing this.
Yeah, of course.
Dim light through fake stained windows, the smell of wood, Jesus in his 4 phases, hand open to children, praying on black velvet, looking at the moonlit, 3-dimensional knocking at the door of Jericho. Musty wood, freshly polished with mineral oil, purple. Our voices, me talking, Reverend telling me the sins. The birds outside telling on the afternoon, his voice is shaky, aging, scratchy, soft, rambles a little about God, ordained man. There's only God, man, and the rest of us flawed. The hollow sound of altered floors. My pant legs as I press finger against crease to quiet my thoughts and words. He talks. The feel of clean oil of wood when I step onto the altar, my feet, hollow floorboards, my hair. My heartbeats quicken, my throat tastes the musty mildew. My frontal lobe heaps up with a headache, confusion burrows, my pinching eyebrows. Musty mildew, fresh polished wood, mineral oil, cortisol in my saliva.
Yeah, great. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Amanda. And again, I hope you've all been able to have an experience, quite a vivid, visceral experience of connection with that moment with Amanda and with Evelyn so far, and how that was allowed and created through the detail that you both went into. And it's the specificity of your detail that is really, really enabling us to kind of travel there into that moment with you. But again, with a sense of curiosity about wanting to know more, about trying to understand what is happening here. Be great to have 1 or 2 more people share what they wrote down if you feel comfortable with that. So please do put your hand up if you'd like, if you feel comfortable sharing. Okay. Just give 5 seconds if someone wants to put their hand up. Okay, that's absolutely fine. And there's absolutely no pressure for anyone to share what they don't feel comfortable sharing. What we're going to do now, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to give you 10 minutes to take your words and phrases and expand them into sentences. And again, you don't need to give any explanation or any context. There doesn't have to be a beginning, a middle, or an end. This is simply a snapshot of this specific moment in your life that you've experienced. And I want you to expand those words and phrases into sentences. You can structure it in a slightly more kind of prose way, but we'll just write it out in whatever way feels comfortable to you. And again, I'll ask some people to share when we come back together. So it would be really wonderful if a few people feel comfortable to do that. But for now, please do take 10 minutes. And I'm just going to drop the website and my LinkedIn into the chat whilst you do that. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be wonderful. But yeah, I'm going to set a 10-minute timer now. Do feel free to turn your cameras off, and then we'll come back in 10 minutes. We'll come back. So just give it a few last seconds. do feel free after the session, of course, to carry on writing this, and do feel free to send anything to me on LinkedIn afterwards if you'd like to. But for now, it would be really great if there was 2 or 3 people, ideally, who feel comfortable sharing what they've written. Recognize that what we will be talking about, the experiences that you're talking about, thinking about, will often be very personal, and could even be quite traumatic. So again, please only share what you do feel comfortable sharing. But is there anyone who would like to share? And again, not giving any context at all, just reading out what you've written down. If a couple of people could put their emoji hand up, that would be amazing. And if anybody would prefer just to kind of put their writing into the chat, so they'd like to share it, but they prefer not to read it out, you're welcome to do that. You can copy and paste it into the chat. Is there someone who would like to, who feels comfortable reading what they've written? Great, thank you for putting that in the chat, Brianna. Catherine, you have your hand up. Catherine, do you feel comfortable reading what you've written, Catherine?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
Well, you just
I am, unless Albriana wants to read hers, or Evelyn.
Let's see. So if you've posted in the chat, so Evelyn and Albiana, do let me know. Send another message if you're comfortable with me reading out, or Evelyn, I see your hand up. So do also put in the chat. Okay, so Evelyn,
But I'm also happy to read
yeah,
the
Catherine.
little that I got.
Yeah, Catherine, if we let's hear from you first, Catherine, please. That would be great.
Sure.
And then we'll come to Evelyn.
And I write slowly too, so this is pretty short, but
Yeah, of course.
everywhere I looked, there were joyous people, shoulder to shoulder. The sun sparkled on the gold leaf of the Capitol Rotunda and warmed their shoulders as we moved peacefully along the downtown streets. The smell of honest sweat as we made good trouble together was like jasmine on the wind, like milk and honey to my mind's famished tongue. I was floating on a sea of love, resolve, and acceptance. The sound of call and response chants filled our ears and fed our solidarity as we spoke out. In that moment, I believed, for the very first time deep in my gut, that the people, united, would never be defeated.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Catherine. Really, really vivid description that you've
Thank
used.
you.
And again, I hope everyone can see how the use of the sensory information is just really conjuring up and creating that really visceral experience so that we can step into your shoes there, Catherine, and get a real sense of the place and the moment that you were in there. That's really wonderful. Thank you. Evelyn, would you like to read out your piece then, please? That would be really wonderful. And thank you, Catherine,
Sure.
for sharing that.
So yeah, my childhood lives in near silent vignettes, the memories that exist there shadowed by time. The carpet below me is soft and warm, unlike the world outside. I can imagine the sound of large wooden phonograph slowly sharing the familiar sounds of Christmas, whilst the clinking of pots, spoons, and dishes and a soft light emanate from the warmth of the kitchen. The book in my hands, a precious tome of possibility, contains within it treasures of toys, clothing, and hope. The pages are light, yet carry a weight with them, the soft crinkle awakening my spirit as they are turned.
Mm.
I edited as I went, which is typical. So,
You said you added in what, sorry?
um, I edited the last
Oh, you
the
edited.
soft crinkle. I saw that I used the pages twice in that two
Oh, I see.
sentence
Yeah,
piece,
no, great.
so I edited as I was going, and I'm actually editing. So
It's great. No, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Evelyn. Okay, and we're gonna have a discussion in a moment, but Albiana, do just put a yes or a no if you'd like me to share that in the chat, and if you put yes, I'm happy to read it out. If no, we can just leave it there in the chat. But in the meantime, I'm just okay. So feel free to share. Okay, what I'll do then, I'll read. Thank you very much for that, Albiana. I'll read this, and then I'm just going to be really interested. I'd really love to hear from a few people about any thoughts that they're having listened to these pieces. Okay, so here we go. I'm surrounded by old brick buildings filled with dusty blackboards and overstuffed bookshelves. The tour guide tells me they are historic. Fluorescent lighting fills the halls. The air conditioner unit roars just outside the 12-paned window, and beyond that buzz, the birds chirp. This is a place of learning, of growing, of privilege. I try to ignore the other potential students and their families, my competition, and instead my eyes settle on my friend, who joined me for my first and only college campus tour. The tour guide is smiling brightly, casting a light on the obvious question. Where are your parents? The question hangs in the air. Do you really belong here? My mouth is dry, though in the pit of my stomach there is an excited hum. Education awaits, if only I can afford it. It's really wonderfully written, Albiana, and such vivid description, really. That's wonderful, thank you. So what I'd like to do now, I'd just like to invite a few people just to share how it's felt listening to each of those pieces. What's been your reaction as you've listened to that, and what's it done for you? So again, just feel free to come off of mute and speak, or pop your hand up. Prince, please do go ahead. You're on mute, Prince, just in case that's an issue.
Hello, good evening.
Hello. Yes, good evening. We can hear you now. Thank you, Prince. Tell us your thoughts.
Hey, my name is Prince from Nigeria, and I'm happy to be here. It's my first time in this kind of class, so I'm listening to the stories. They feel really personal, and I can feel it. You know, it gives a feeling, and it also paints pictures. I can imagine the situation. I can feel what the writer, was feeling at the moment, and I can put myself in the writer's shoes and, just not even hearing it, but seeing it, living in the story. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great feedback and absolutely spot on. And yeah, welcome to you for joining from Nigeria. Thank you, Prince. Good to have you here. Yeah, who else does that resonate with? And anyone else tell us any reaction they felt listening to any of the specific stories or just overall? And thank you for the comments in the box. I'll just read out the couple of comments in the box. Evelyn. Each of them drew me into their world. How amazing is the written word, the doorway to empathy. Yeah, absolutely. And Opal, the vivid descriptions transport me there. Yeah, thank you. Who else would like to share any comments or thoughts on how they've felt? Maria, please.
Thank you so much for this. It's been really impactful. For me, it helped me to maybe relate to parts of my life that I can relate to just based on what they were describing, and it made me really curious for what they were experiencing and want to have deeper conversations. So I think that empathy of maybe we haven't gone through the exact same thing, but things of their story connected to other parts of things I've experienced. So it was really powerful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria. Yeah, and empathy is such a key word, and that really is kind of the bedrock, I think, of all of this. It's and by talking about our own lived experience in this kind of detail, allowing the reader or the listener to step into our shoes and experience that through ourself, giving them that window creates empathy. It's really hard not to feel empathetic towards somebody when you've heard such an intimate description of a really poignant moment in their life that really humanizes them. And this is about humanizing ourselves, so that we can then be humanized by others through our words when they read our words and they feel what we felt. That empathy is what humanizes us in their eyes. And then if you imagine that across the board, these kind of global connections or intercultural, domestic relationships, within countries, within communities, it's such an effective way of generating that empathy. Um, I'm just going to read out Sarah's comment. Thank you for this comment, Sarah. The narration makes me feel empathetic and makes me imagine myself in their situation. Absolutely. Absolutely right. Um, and yeah, so that humanizing experience is kind of what we can do in the storytelling. And you also actually, sorry, you mentioned curiosity as well. And again, and that's something that I mentioned as well. And again, is another bedrock, I would say, is because if you come in with an explanation, like an overview and almost like an academic description of what is happening, people kind of take it on board, but they don't really feel it. It's very forgettable. But whereas when you connect with someone through this kind of on a sensory level, it enters your mind in a different way and it stays in your mind much longer than a non-sensory description. And what you can do through the storytelling is that this is what you've produced in just 10 minutes. You can build on this, and this will be a vignette. I mean, Evelyn actually used the word vignette in your narration. That these moments of stories become vignettes that can just be pieced together like a jigsaw puzzle to create your story, talking through your lived experience. But by not giving away too much too quickly, you allow the reader to want to read on, to keep turning the pages, to hear more. Does anyone else want to share anything that they've written? And please do put it in the chat, and I'm happy to read it out, or you can read out yourself. But I'm also curious just to get two or three people's thoughts on how you think that this can be used to create empathy through storytelling and through communication. Okay, Amanda, thank you. Because if we can feel it and see it ourselves, we can be transported. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to hate someone up close. Yep. relatable, makes it easier to connect. Yeah, very much so. Catherine, please do go ahead.
Well, I don't want to hog airwaves, but I do want to mention I used it in a class at Purdue last semester. The day after I actually did one of these with you, I tried it in the classroom. It was early on in the semester, and class of 24, it really seemed to help students to gel for their group products because they trusted one another in a way that I had never been able to have them do in the classroom before.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's so great. Thank you, Catherine. And Albriana has said, by sharing in such a way and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we can see the similarities between lived experiences, support through the heaviness, and the work together to create change. Yeah, absolutely. And Amanda, because this is how we felt that first moment as well, it helps us to connect to the story of our past. Yeah, absolutely. Please do share any thoughts. We've got about 5 minutes left. Evelyn, may I share a short moment that relates to this? Yes, please. And please, Evelyn, go ahead, Evelyn.
Yeah, it's actually Evelyn. You got it right.
Evelyn, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. You've gotten it right most of the time, so I'm okay with it. So this gets into the, somewhat what my story is about, but I was born intersex and identify as transgender because they chose wrong when they chose out of the two that I could have been at birth. So seeing they're always talking about the transgender agenda. And it wasn't so much, giving them this description like we're working on right now, but I wrote something to humanize, to let people know the similarities, the things that we have in common. And what I did is I shared at an event that we had here locally. A It was really just a list, but one of my friends said no, it is a poem. Um, and it's a list. It's my transgender agenda,
Mm-hmm.
and it just talks about who I am through the things I want to do, to go to where my ancestors lived, even though it's now a lake, and and pet my cats more and things like that. It's basically letting someone into my world and see who I am. And the reaction from it was enormous, because people all of a sudden were able to relate to me, to my story, and saw me as a person instead of a threat or something to be that is misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
So it can impact people in such a strong way and stay with them. People have come up to me since that event last year and, oh my gosh, that was amazing, and they just happened to be in the audience that day. So
Wow, that's such a powerful story. And it's such a great example of exactly what we've been trying to achieve here. Something in practice. Amazing. Um, Great. Thank you, Holly. Thanks for being here. So there's probably 1 minute if anyone wants to have any questions or final thoughts.
I
Amanda?
appreciate this. Thank you for this. One of the final thoughts is that first moment doesn't really describe at all what my overall cause is. So I appreciate this and realize that it's, how do you describe that? What is that first moment? It doesn't even reflect what I'm trying to work on. I mean, it does, but it's that seed. So that's something I noticed. It's always hard to be like, be patient, tell the story. We're getting there.
Yeah, wonderful. So great. Thank you so much for that, Amanda. Great. Well, in a moment I'm going to hand back over to Opal just to close us out. But I just want to say a sincere thank you to all of you. for being here, and for humoring me in this kind of immersive process. I've dropped my LinkedIn in the chat again. I would love to connect with any of you. But yeah, thank you so much. And so back over to you, Opal.
Well, thank you, Andy. This has been really powerful, and thank you everyone for your engagement, and just really have enjoyed this and hope you all took as much from it as I did, and we hope to stay in touch with you and to have more opportunities like this. So thanks again, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, and your weekend.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.